If you've ever used JavaScript to validate a form, you might be missing one crucial part. Let's talk about the one thing that you must do to validate forms correctly. So here's the thing. What you probably think of as form validation may not actually be doing any validation at all. See, there's a distinct difference between form validation and user experience. This is user experience, where we give feedback to the user, we show these messages, etc., to let them know what's wrong. But this is true validation that actually validates the data coming from a form submission or elsewhere, talk about that in a second, to make sure that it's valid data for us to work with. And yes, this happens on the server, and it has to happen there because of one particular reason that we'll get to in a second. So we'll work throughout this video talking about front-end validation for your forms in JavaScript, moving to the backend, and then I'll show you one of my favorite tools that can handle both of those front-end and backend validation and form submissions for us, which is really neat, called KwesForms. So I have running an Astro site, which has 3 different pages on it for form demo. So the first one is a sign up with no validation. The second one is with validation added. We'll talk about the different things that we add and why and how we do that. And the last one is with using the product Quz Forms, which is going to take care of the validation on the front end and the back end for us. So let's first start with the obvious thing that we don't want to do, which is to have no validation at all. This means the user could just submit this with empty data. If we have requirements, which we'll show in a second, for requiring a user to have, or a username to have a number in there, it doesn't actually do that. So they could, I don't know how I got SER, but it could submit whatever there. It could submit invalid emails, etc. So this is looking at these inputs, like we're also not using the correct type. So this is one tip, is to make sure if you're looking for an email, use the type of email, passwords, type of passwords, etc. We don't have any additional checks to make sure that this data is valid before the user submits. So let's go back now to the sign up with validation, and we'll see a couple of things in here, and then we'll take a look at the code of how this is done. So in the username, it has a requirement of being 6 characters or more. So you can see if I type something that's less than 6 characters, I get this validation message. It says you are currently using 5 characters. Great, thank you. If I make this 6 characters, it says the username should contain a number. So we have the ability to highlight this input and then show the error message. Now, the good thing about this too is that we're not showing this validation message until the user has actually input something. So you can see here that even though I haven't added a valid email yet, it's not showing me that message because the user hasn't attempted to add anything. So if I start to type and then tab away, now it's going to show that I need to enter a valid email. So me@dev.com. And then the same thing down here on the confirm email. I haven't tried yet, but if I start to type something and now they don't match, it says email and email confirm should match. So notice it also disables this button down here to make sure that I'm not able to submit any of this until all of these things have been fixed. So now that all these are good, I can now click sign in and it will do whatever with this information. So let's talk really quickly about what happens inside of here to do this validation. So this is a Svelte component inside of Astro, basically just to kind of show you how the front end JavaScript works to be able to calculate all of these different errors. So first off, I have the 3 different properties for the inputs, the username, the email, and the email confirm. I also then have an an error message for each one of those. So we have handlers in here for any time the username changes, the email changes, or the email confirm changes, we do these validations. So username is checking to make sure there's a length of greater than 6. It also uses a regex pattern to make sure that the username contains a number. And then if both of those things pass, it then resets the username error to nothing because the data is good. Similarly with the email, if there's not an email, you say it's required. We can also match a regex here to check for a valid email, and then we reset the error if it's good. Lastly, the email confirm should match the email. But again, these only get triggered after the user has inputted something on that input and then tabbed away. So we'll talk about this in a second. This is a regular form that posts to an endpoint, which we'll see in a second. So it makes a post to this URL, which is sign up with validation. And if we look in here, we have conditional tailwind classes based on the error. So if there is an error for username, we mark it red. And then we also display that error right below that input. Now, one little fun fact, one little tip is to have a standard or a static height for that text. so that if you add an error, the text doesn't jump around. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I save this and now come back and refresh and type in an invalid one, do you see that little bit of a jump? So if I type in a valid one now, it's going to go away. You see how that jumps? That's not ideal. So with a consistent or a static height, if you just go ahead and give it a height regardless of the text, you're not going to see that jump. So this is a little tip for you as you go through and kind of take a look at this. So we have these different inputs, and then we have the errors, and then we conditionally display them. Now, what's cool inside of Svelte is we can also have what's called a computed property, which is the submit enabled property. And what this says is anytime any of these properties get updated, it's automatically going to recalculate the submit enabled. Submit enabled makes sure there's something in each one of these three fields and they don't have any errors. And then for the button down here, we disable the button based on that Boolean. So the opposite of it. So submit enabled, we do the opposite of that and then allow the user to sign in. So what looks like a great solution to making sure that all the information is valid is actually missing the most important part of this, the actual validation. So everything that we've shown is really just user experience to give the user an idea of what's going on and how to improve their experience to make it easy for them to submit this form. But this is not the only way that users can submit information to this form. So what happens if you open Postman, for example? So this is the Postman extension inside of VS Code. Super, super cool. So glad that this is now in VS Code. But I could type in here my localhost 4321, and I could send a post request directly to that endpoint. So let's just make sure I have the endpoint correct. So let's scroll back up to the top to where the form submits. And let's submit to 4321 / and then sign up with validation. We can pass in a form data body in here. We could be missing the data. We could pass in invalid data. So we could pass in a username that is empty, for example. And let's actually try this. So this is going to go to a post request, and it's going to send this information along, which obviously doesn't even have an email property, doesn't have an email confirm property, and then has an invalid username, which is just an empty username. So we can send this from Postman, and what we'll see is we get this HTML document back, but what I'm doing is on the server, I am logging out the credentials that the user has sent. So we'll get into this code here in a second. But from the form that's submitted, I grab the username, I grab the email and the confirm. And you can see in here, I have an empty username. I then have null and null for both the email and confirm. So even though we have what appears to be front-end validation with all of these messages in here, that doesn't stop someone from actually submitting data to your server that's not being validated, which means validation has to happen on your server to make sure that you're being secure and handling form submissions appropriately. So what's cool about Astro is we have the ability to mix page-based routing with also handling API routes and or form submissions in this case. So on this page, we're checking to see if this method is a post, then we validate the data. So what does this look like? Let's go in and comment all this code in. Basically, this is unfortunately a copy of the validation code that we had on the front end, because again, we need it in both places, user experience versus actual validation. So in this case, we check the username, we set an error if it's not appropriate. Email, same thing. Email confirm, same thing. And then if all that information is successful, we redirect the user to the home page. So now if we were to come back to our Postman, we shouldn't be redirected to the home page. We should stay on that same page, but then we'll see our form with our inputs that will then show those errors. And if we scroll down enough, we can see, although it's kind of small, those properties showing up. And that's the equivalent of the errors that I would have seen inside of here. So with Astro, we have the ability to determine those errors on the server and then to make decisions about where to send the user if there are errors. So in this case, we're not sending the user to the home page. We're sending them back to the sign up page that they're on, repopulating the form with the inputs and then the validation messages as well. So the most important part about this is you need to be protecting yourself on the server by validating all the information that you accept from the front end on the server, while also probably providing those validation messages for users from a user experience perspective. Now, the downside of this is that it means that you have to have extra logic on your server. You also have to have a server, and then you have to have basically duplicate logic to be able to handle validation on the front end and the back end. And so what I found is a product called KwesForms, which can help do all of that for us. So what we'll see in a second, if we look at the form that is using KwesForms, so sign up with KwesForms, what we're going to do is update this action to submit to Quz, and then we can use their kind of rule system to be able to find all the validation, and it will do validation front end and back end, which is pretty neat. So on KwesForms, you can sign up for a free trial if you want to try it out for 7 days. And then if you'd like it, you can also use the code JAMES50 for 50% off of your first year of an annual plan. But I'm going to add a website in here, and we'll just call this a YouTube demo. And this is going to save us like all the work that we just talked about. It's going to take care of for us. So this is YouTube Forms demo. You can also integrate with reCAPTCHA if you want to. So if you sign up for reCAPTCHA and get a secret key, you can do that. This also enables spam filters. So KwesForms has logic on their servers to be able to detect and handle spam, which is pretty cool, because otherwise I don't really know how I would do that myself. So the first thing they say is to install KwesForms into your application. So I've actually already got this installed in this application. We can see this in the package.json. So there is KwesForms there. So I have this already installed, and then inside of my Svelte kit or Svelte component, I import KwesForms, and then I call the init function. And the init function is basically going to look for a form with a class of KwesForm, and it's going to be able to attach to that form. So let's go back and go to the next step. It says to add that class. Okay, we've already got that. And then it says to add the action. So we're just going to copy this URL in, and this is where we're going to send the form submission when it happens. So it's going to send it to KwesForms servers, and they're going to handle validation, etc. So we'll press next on this, and then it says basically build a form like we're already doing. We already have all this. And then lastly, you can add rules to be able to add validation to it. And then Quz is going to take care of the rest. So what's cool, if we look inside of this code, notice I don't have any like reactive code up here to handle validation messages. I don't have any validation message variables or anything like that. I just define my rules, and I've got these defined for each one. These can also get pretty complicated and neat. I'll show you in a second, but it'll take care of the rest. So now it's just waiting for me to send a form submission. So what I'm going to do is go back to my local domain. Let's go back to the home page, which will give us a link to the sign up with KwesForms. If I now start to type in there, notice they pop up with a message to say I'm still needing to connect. If I tab away, I already get validation messages saying this needs to be 6 characters. And then now it's saying that email is required. So let's do me@dev.com. And then we'll fill in me@dev.com as well. And we're just kind of testing out that this form submission is going to go. So this goes to KwesForms the first time just to show you that it is accepting the form submission, and we can set localhost as our test domain. Obviously, when we deploy a real application, we will then go back and set our real domain. So we can go back to our form, and now we can continue to do our testing. So we can type in here our test, me@dev.com, me@dev.com. We can submit, and now it says, thank you for completing our form. You can customize all this to change it however you want to. But if we go back to our form, it recognized that we submitted a form submission. We can finish this, and now we can actually see those form submissions in the dashboard, which is really cool. We can also see spam if that were to pop up. But the other thing is this is already connected to my email account, and I can see in here that I have a new form submission. So this is sending me an email directly to my email every time I get a form submission. You could turn that off if you wanted to, but you have the ability to define it right there. Now, one of the things I haven't done yet is set up the confirmation between email and the confirm email. So if we look at me@dev.com and me2@dev.com, it's not checking to make sure that those two things are equal. And that's because we're missing one additional property that we can add, which is really pretty neat. So on the email input, we want to annotate that this should have another input that is a confirmation of this input. Basically meaning the confirmation email should match what's in the email input as well. So what we can do is add another pipe and another rule in here for confirmed. And what that's going to do is automatically make an association between this input and another input that has a name that matches a certain criteria. And that criteria or that format is going to be the name of this input underscore and then confirmation. So just by labeling this name as email confirmation, Now it's going to have an association to make sure that this confirmation email should match the original email. So let's save this. Let's come in and add a first email, so me@dev.com. And then let's come down and add a confirm email that is me2@dev.com. And when we click away, we'll see that we have the validation message saying that these don't match. But if we update this to now match, you can see that this is appropriately taking care of validating that the confirmation, the relationship between these two is confirmed, I guess, pun intended, to make sure that this confirmation email does equal exactly what this email equals as well. Now, one other thing that's interesting that you might think about is what happens if someone goes into the markup and they remove this rules property. So let's say the rules minimum are required and minimum of 6 on the username. Let's say we just delete that from the markup. What's cool about this is called tamper-proof, or like phrased as tamper-proof. So if I start to type in something, it's still doing that validation, even though I deleted those rules from the original markup, which is pretty neat. So there's really no way for someone to hack this, because validation is happening also on the server, which is the most important part or takeaway on this video. It's also happening on the front end, but most importantly on the back end. And then also it's tamper-proof, which means if you go in and try to edit these rules and get rid of them, it's still going to do all the validation that it's supposed to, which is really, really neat. Now, on the flip side, let's say you're using the built-in required flag for one of these inputs. So let's say the username is required, we don't fill it out, and we press sign in. We get the built-in validation in the browser, but you can bypass this by going in and just removing that element. Again, something that Quz prevents from happening. So if we go in and select this input, we can find the required section. We can now just get rid of that. And now if we try to submit again, it's not going to do validation on this first field because we just removed the markup that is ensuring that this property is filled out before the submit is able to be submitted. Now, KwesForms also has some integrations with webhooks if you want to handle webhooks in your own server, or if you want to integrate with something like Zapier. They've got a couple of cool integrations, which are pretty neat as well. But this has been by far the easiest way I found to set up and handle forms, specifically when you're doing validation. Now, one thing that might be worth looking into is the documentation on form validation that goes through all these rules and how to layer them together, etc. So spend some time looking at the documentation to see what all the different validation rules are. You can see there's a ton of these, which is really cool. So you can handle all this validation using KwesForms with just a couple of lines of code and not having to do all that validation manually yourself.